Welcome to Broadview Talents C-Suite Elevated, where executive leaders rise to achieve their highest potential. In this podcast, we lift the curtain on C-level search, strategy, career progression, succession planning, as well as leadership transitions. We're here to explore the current executive leadership landscape to elevate the way organizations identify, attract, retain, develop, and transition top talent. I'm your host, Tracy MacMillan, CEO and Managing Partner. In today's episode, we're diving into a fascinating and increasingly relevant topic, rewirement, or the art of slowing down gradually to ease into retirement. Many executives are rethinking the traditional hard stop, opting instead for a phased approach that allows them to continue contributing their expertise while pursuing their new passions. I'm incredibly excited today to be speaking with our distinguished guest, Harold T. Epps. Harold is based in Philadelphia and serves as a senior advisor at both Diversified Search Group Global and Bellevue Strategies. With over 40 years of extensive corporate and community leadership experience, Harold has most recently served as the highly respected Director of Commerce for the City of Philadelphia. And prior to that, he served as President, CEO, and Vice Chairman of PRWT, a leading IT service provider with a notable presence across 3 states. Harold's deep insights into leadership, business development, strategic transitions, and partnerships make him the perfect person to guide us through the nuances of this glide into retirement. Harold, as we sort of embrace what we call the glide into retirement, many people envision retirement as a complete stop. We don't as well. In essence, we think retirement is the process of rewiring your mind and mindset as you prepare to make the transition into the emeritus phase of your life and career. Retirement is not about inertia and activity or indifference. Quite the contrary. It's about doing what you love, when you want to do it, and at a pace that is decidedly different from your primary career. Could you share today your personal journey and what inspired you to consider entrepreneurial ventures or side hustles, as we call them, as part of your transition rather than a traditional exit?
Well, let's take I like entrepreneurial path way more than I like side hustle.
Okay.
Because uh, you use the word glide, and my metaphor of that is for myself, I want to land my plane softly.
Okay.
So we both fly a lot. You know, when you're up in there, you do not want an abrupt fall to the ground.
Do not.
And I chose, as I began to think half a decade ago, is how I would depart. I wanted to have it be slow, graceful, and to continue to build upon the privileges of what I've learned over, decades. And I am absolutely blessed to be doing what I want to do. In the spirit of Frankie Beverly, I have found my joy, my peace, and I am happy with the balance that I have between making a contribution. I'm able to do good and do well simultaneously. And I'm able to balance both my income generating activities with my nonprofit activities and still have time to play golf 3 times a week. That's pretty good. I I saw it as a possibility. I stepped out on faith
Mhm.
about a half a decade ago and could not be pleased with where I am. But I would say to many, there is something that comes before any of this, and that is good health. And I think we all would agree when we don't have good health, the rest of this doesn't matter.
Well, I appreciate you interjecting health, and even though we were going to touch upon this a little later, I think it's good to touch upon it now because I think it'll flow into the rest of our conversation today. Talk to me about the importance of health, especially because this is an area that can sometimes um, restrict one's ability to rewire, restrict one's ability to truly retire or settle into the emeritus phase of your life and career. How does one prepare for this transition, and how have you done it?
Well, before you prepare for it, you must make sure that if this is an automobile, that the car is ready to run the race.
Mhm.
And in this case, it's the body. And, I'm sitting here thinking about that I have my annual physical in like 10 days. And as soon as I get that, I'll be on to make sure that I get my flu shot and my COVID shot. Contrary to other people's opinions, I've had every one that they have offered. And I've not been sick or in a substantial way in years because I have insurance and I will go to the doctor. And so I think in today's reality, with there being a shortage in the medical profession,
Mhm.
we have to be proactive, we have to be intentional, and we can't let the pace of life get in the way of the fundamentals, and your health is one of those. You know, I talk to friends on the golf course that says, okay, I got this doctor's appointment coming up. Well, I want to do X, Y, and Z. I'm gonna reschedule it. Well, reschedule may take you 2 months. So unless it's earth shattering, keep that appointment. Make your health a priority. I joke with people, they say that X number of steps, you can debate whether it's 8 or 9 or 10,000, but you got to get your exercise every day. And all these electronic tools we wear give us some indication of whether we are fulfilling our commitment. One of my statements is many are well intentioned, but few are serious.
I love it.
All right. And so every January, probably 35, 40% of America joins some club or says, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. Show up 100 days later and ask, did you? And more than not, the answer is, well, see what happened was I didn't.
Right.
Those that did are serious. The rest were just well intentioned. I rambled a little bit, but fundamentally, before you can get to work-life balance, before you can get to global travel, before you can get to retirement or rewirement, you need to make sure that your present and your future health has been attended to.
So very true. And
And even more so,
Mhm.
Tracy, you and I carry the same,
Genetic markers.
exactly. Yes, thank you for filling in that for me. Yes, but yes, as African American men, the data says we're the last to go to the doctor.
Right. But you and I defy that.
Absolutely.
And then I love that. I love it. So thank you for interjecting that. Harold, throughout the course of your 40-year career, at what point did you make that pivot, if you will, to the entrepreneurial ventures that now sort of, make up or comprise a lot of what you're doing in your quote unquote rewirement retirement phase?
It just in thinking through this conversation, it dawned on me that I have come down the scale ladder. I spent the first 20 years of my career in big, large, multi-billion-dollar corporate America
Mhm.
with the second largest computer company in the world. Then I went on and ran divisions in middle market firms, one in Wisconsin, one in Indiana. And then I got the privilege to come to Philadelphia to run one of America's largest Black owned firms, that is PRWT Services. They are now one of my clients. I'm now a senior advisor, as you earlier stated. And from there, as you already said, I went on to be commerce director. And those two sets of experiences gave me the vision of being able to help other companies, small and medium size, leverage and learn from my background. And so I now help them with their strategy, their business development, and their government relations. And they think highly enough of me to provide, a monthly fee to do that. And I have deliverables that I have to do, and we do them, and we maintain relationships. I'm happy to say that in year 5, I've got about a 90% retention rate. And so, but when I stopped leading organizations and I led them for 40 some odd years, I did it because, quite frankly, I had two things I was tired of doing. I was tired of leading people, and I was tired of being responsible for budgets. Didn't mind the work, but I was tired of having to prepare uh, for presentations around P&L responsibility and accountability, and I was tired of the surprises that came with managing people. One of my statements is life is pretty simple, but people complicated. And so I ridded myself of those two. Now, I little joke, but along the way, God said, you're not done, young man. So he then put on my plate, I'm now the chair of the board of Community College of Philadelphia. And what do I get with that? I get people and I get budgets. So I guess he said I wasn't finished. But at any rate, I don't do it at the pace I used to. My work week that used to be 55, 60 hours is now 25, 30.
Okay.
And there's a lot of more time after you spend 25, 30 hours a week doing something. You got a lot of more time. My biggest passion is golf. I got 3 or 4 boards I'm on, and that is providing a pretty good life, along with a reasonable amount of travel, but not too much.
Okay. You emphasize doing what you love, and I get the sense, I've always got the sense that you have done most of the things that you enjoy and where you spend your time and have great passion. How does one identify these passions that can evolve into something fulfilling and sustainable?
Well, it also has come to my realization that through my corporate experience, that I have had a great deal of human and organizational and self-reflection training,
Mhm.
which gives you the toolkit to go internally and figure out for yourself what your likes and dislikes are. And I would say to anyone, the more you do that, the more you get clear about where you get your joy from. And when you can get clear about that, the rest is pretty easy. And I've been able to do that. I like making a difference. I like giving back. I like seeing systems improve. I'm not the kind of person going to go watch soap operas all day. I don't want to play golf 5 days a week. I don't even want to travel 100%. But I like being part of a community to make a difference. And I built a life both in my uh, rewirement and all my nonprofit work that provides that for me. And as a result from that, I have joy.
Excellent. Concept of focusing on that which brings you joy and that which also represents your spiritual gifts that you can leverage and give back.
That's right.
Maybe
Exactly right.
to another, organization that's coming.
Because at the end of the day, you got three things that you can provide to others: your time, your talent, and your treasure. And when I have put together a package for me, and everybody's got to do what's best for them. One of the sayings is God's got for you what's for you. You can't worry about or be envious or jealous of somebody else's it. You got to worry about your own it. And when you can find, again, I'll repeat myself, when you can find your own joy, then you have gained the biggest uh, treasure that life has to offer.
I love it. I love it. I want to pivot into practical preparation, and especially those who are making this pivot from their corporate careers. What's the earliest point in time you would advise them to start exploring into this transition and this rewirement process? One shouldn't wait until they're at the end. I view careers in what I'll call 48-year tranches from age 22 to age 70 is typically when people work nowadays. They used to end a bit earlier, but
Yeah.
the Great Recession of 2008 through 2010 prolonged people's careers because it converted their 401ks to 201ks and they suffered some major hits. I think we've recovered from that if we can avoid another recession. But what's the earliest point in time that somebody should be thinking about this transition? How should they be going about that? The critical steps they're going to take.
I in life, I do not believe one size fits all. I don't think there's a universal answer to that question. I think every chapter, every phase is a building block, but along the way, you should constantly ask the question, what am I good at? What
Right.
do I like? What do I love? And when you start getting on the back end, what's your family situation? Where do I want to live? What I want to spend my money on?
Mhm.
Do I have grandchildren? Do I want to be close to them? Do I want to travel the world? And when you do that and answer those questions, then it begins to frame for you how you will take those 24 times 7, whatever that is, what's that, 168 hours a week that's available for you to do what's important to you. And by the way, we talk about rewirement.
Mhm.
Not everybody wants to be rewired. Some want to go sit on the couch. All right. Some want to go fish every day. That's not me. I always say, if you find me fishing, you know I've been kidnapped.
I love it. I love it.
So again, I guess it all would be a rewirement, but again, is what do you want this phase of your life to be? And I would say that's along the journey for everybody. Probably more so in my time than people coming out of college now. We were trained more to go where the job was.
Okay.
That's how I ended up in Wisconsin, Indiana, because that's where the job was. A lot of people now says, I'm not doing that.
Right.
And I applaud that. Uh, uh, but again, if not for those stops for me, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing now.
Harold, do you think that the pandemic offered a new insight or a new way for people to view this time in their life and career? And if
Absolutely. The
how?
pandemic and technology.
Okay, tell us more.
Well, you and I are doing something right now that a decade ago we would have had to. You would have had to get on a train and come to some place, and we would have had to get a camera and all of that stuff. And now you're in wherever you are, and I'm in my house, and we put on a sport coat, and we're good to go. So
Right.
that's it. So that has increased accessibility and flexibility. Uh, you, you, you are fully in the search business. I'm peripherally. I'm less so now than I was 5 years ago. But 4 or 5 years ago, I did 4 or 5 searches and never. The most I put on was a Zoom shirt.
Right. Right.
All of that has emerged as a result of the technology accessibility, which got propelled by the pandemic, from my vantage point, and I don't think we're going back. Now,
No.
I also have friends of mine. Their children have decided that they're so remote. They now live in other parts of the world to do their work. And that's a whole different conversation. But it has changed where people live, how they think about where they live, and how they respond to opportunity.
No, couldn't agree more. I would also, offer that your gut be your guide. My grandmother used to say that your gut is God's way of telling you the right thing to do, and very seldom, if ever, will that steer you wrong. And I think somebody has to viscerally know when it's time to say when. I also believe, and this is a concept that we hold dear at Broadview Talent Partners, the concept of highest career goal and aspiration, or HCGA. What is it that you want to achieve before you go to your celebration of life event, also known as a retirement dinner, the place where people come to eulogize you while you are alive, not lying in state in a coffin looking up at the top of the church with your eyes closed? What which you achieve prior to then, right, should also in many ways dictate every move you make and every step you take to how you time or position yourself for this retirement or rewirement period, or sometimes people call it the emeritus phase of one's life and career. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely. In fact, I would say that for many, many, many people, the biggest challenge they face is getting out of their own way and having the confidence, the openness to dream big and not let the current state dictate future states. The other thing that I've learned is that many, many people are not willing to share their dreams and visions with others, therefore allowing others to help them. And what I have found is if you put it out into the atmosphere more times than not, it will become your reality. Um, and so I'm a big proponent of that. Uh, I could tell you story after story after story of how things unfolded for me because I made it known to others that was my aspiration.
Okay.
And I also can tell you many times where I did listen to my gut, and it turned out to be a very beneficial outcome because I did not go against what my gut was telling me to do.
I appreciate that. And I want to use that as a pivot to the notion of going from a W-2 employee to a 1099, getting that LLC going when you're used to that steady flow of income. You're used to the strong base, the nice accoutrement with bonus and stock and what have you. You're making this transition. What's the best way to set yourself up mentally for that transition, Harold?
Well, it starts with you talked about earlier before we came on. You have to prepare for an uncertain future. Now, I should be in full declaration. I am privileged. Part of my soft landing is I've got both.
Mhm.
I've got a W-2 and I got a 1099. And so that's part of the strategy of trying to ease my plane out of the air softly. By the way, Tracy, since you know my wife, also at a pace that keeps my wife comfortable.
I
you know,
love it.
you know
Yeah,
what I mean?
I do understand. I do understand.
Yes. Uh, but getting out of one's comfort zone
Mhm.
is a prerequisite for growth, and that can come in different ways. In my case, when I left Massachusetts, I moved to a state that before interviewing, I'd never been to before. The demographics were very, very different.
Mhm.
Um, and it helped teach me how to make new friends and adapt myself to new environment. Um, and a lot of people were unwilling to go where I went. But all those lessons get you prepared to step away from the comforts that you have known. And discomfort comes in a lot of different ways. But I would say to somebody, until you get practice being in an uncomfortable environment, you are limiting your growth.
Oh, understood. Understood. Harold, tell me a little bit also about
Let me back up for 1 minute, Tracy.
Sure.
So the notion of rewirement comes in many, 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 many forms. I've got one of these ones that are more higher end, but I've got friends who have chosen to give back by going to be a substitute school teacher, and they're happy. I've got others that are down in Pinehurst driving a van because they want to play golf every day, because they're happy.
Right.
I got others that open up a winery, restaurants. Uh, again, one size does not fit all.
I've seen people take baggage handling jobs at Delta or American Airlines to get the flight benefits.
Absolutely, absolutely. Fred, I think I said this to you when we were together previously. I had a friend who loved Martha's Vineyard,
Mhm.
and U.S. Air at that time, now American Airlines, needed someone to go down to Martha's Vineyard to run their baggage claim. Well, it's a one man. You check people in, then you go load the plane, and then you take the luggage off the plane. He did it.
I love it.
One
I
or
love
two planes come in a day. The rest of the time, he's got some administrative work, but the rest of the time he's where he wanted to be on the vineyard.
a great pathway and nexus to something he loves while doing a modicum of work. So I love it.
Exactly right. And because we are low as a group of people, no matter how much money we are in relation to our white peers, we are low wealth. And so I believe that we are better served to leave the next generation whatever you can to propel them to a more successful, and the cost of living in this country is getting increasingly more expensive. So a little bit of rewiring also can keep you out of that 201k or 401k, because you also may have the likelihood to live into your triple digits. I just came back from my hometown and saw two of my mother's friends. My mother's deceased, and they were 93 and 96 years old. So you don't know how long God's going to have you on this earth either.
Oh, very true. Let's pivot a little bit to what I'll call the interim advantage. There's a great demand or greater demand, and we're seeing it more and more for folks to serve in interim roles, a CEO, CFO, chief development officers, many times at nonprofits, sometimes in for profits as needed, but not quite as much. What do you think is necessary for folks to make that adaptation, especially folks coming from corporate, to make that transition to be in an interim role within a nonprofit setting?
Well, I think that is multi-layered. The first thing is do not disrespect a nonprofit. I think it's a walk in the park and a piece of cake just because you came out of corporate America. That's the first thing. Secondly, if you are CEO, CFO, or institutional investment, you need to know you're probably going to work harder than you worked when you were in corporate America, because most nonprofits are resource challenged.
That's right.
And if you are the CFO and CEO, part of your job is going to be fundraising.
That's right.
And you better decide whether you want that at that phase of your life. And so a lot of people take these fractionalized jobs thinking it's going to be a piece of cake, and then they are in for a rude awakening. And again, I go back to where I started from. When you take a fractionalized CEO, you are back to leading people to managing budgets and running down money. And I don't care whether you pen or a $2 million nonprofit. They got the same challenge now. Less money now than they had last year.
This is true. This is true. Yeah, we see and sense that trend. Sometimes we see people who are frustrated with corporate America. They're at the end of their rope, and they think that the nonprofit sector is going to be salve on that wound. What might you offer as a piece of advice to those who might be making what I call an impulsive move in a place where they might not necessarily be set up for success because you do work hard. It is a business. It just has a different IRS tax code,
Yep.
over expense and a strong balance sheet as well as reserves and endowment would be great to shoot for, but not everybody has the DNA to succeed in a resource constrained environment.
I think that your last sentence is the ultimate one. Many times when you are in large corporations, um, you have been blessed with excess resources, assistance, and automobiles, and sometimes private planes, or you fly first class, or all of that stuff. Most nonprofits don't have, and many leader is not accustomed to the demands that will be put on their time in that nonprofit. In fact, one of my jokes is a little bit off, but I've talked to our pastor of recent. When you are the pastor of a church, you are chief bottle washer, bathroom cleaner, fundraiser, facility manager, and that's true for these nonprofits too. You can't call somebody and say, "Well, I need you to come up here and do X, Y, and Z," because you may be X, Y, and Z. And again, I've seen it happen. Uh, Many people from the corporate structure and the resources that come with it are not prepared for that rude and abrupt awakening that confronts them, particularly when they come with the wrong mindset. Now, I think people like you and me who are in the chain of communication sort out those that have not looked at this objectively. But many come to the table with again the wrong framework, and all you can tell them is watch out. And in some cases, I tell them don't do it. It's a bad fit, and
I,
better to have the hard conversation now than after they get into the role.
well, I think that's sagacious advice. One of the things over 30 years in search has been pivotal is catching somebody in the right time in their life and career and truly knowing that, helping them own where they truly are so they make the right moves, not a spurious and impulsive or a move that does not set them up for success. And making sure that they're ready to rewire or that they've been in the process of rewiring, being able to diagnose and assess and evaluate that, very important. But another thing that comes to mind is, have you benefited from, and what would you offer in the realm of executive coaching, if you will, to those who are making this transition into retirement, and how an executive coach can facilitate that?
Well, you know what? I've also learned that not everybody is open to being coached,
Hmm.
which is a big mistake. I will take an input and support from anywhere I can get it, and would encourage others to be open to learn from others. Um, Coaching has benefited my career in so many ways, and it's never too late to learn. I mean, I'm sitting here talking to you now, and I know very little about how to utilize artificial intelligence. I need to learn. I need to learn more.
Agreed.
Uh, Many a person who are running business, particularly small business, know the technical side, don't know the business side. Many a person who says they want to run a nonprofit, they know the purpose of the nonprofit, but do not know a P&L. They do not know finance. They do not know human resources. And if you are going to be successful, you will need to open yourself up to be guided and coached by others. So important. So important.
Oh, I agree. Would you agree also, Harold, that the concepts of ownership, humility, accountability, as well as contrition are key um, attributes that, and soft skills, if you will, that a good leader needs to have, especially as they make this move and this transition?
Absolutely. Absolutely. But again, I would say that many rewirements will have you go from leadership to individual contributor,
That's right.
and others will have you go from individual contributor to part timer.
That's right.
But again, that goes back to the design that you have for the phase of your life. And I would also say it's not one phase; it may be two or three phases. In fact, I would suggest you that one of the masters of rewiring that we've ever seen is Martha Stewart.
Yes, indeed. Why do you mention her in particular, though?
Well, just because I'm amazed at she is still relevant on television after 6 decades. She is still a lead. Now, I saw Patty LaBelle this morning. She would also get an A mark on Rewirement because she's now selling wine and pies and so forth. In addition to still
Mhm.
being a first class artist. But again, both of those women would be examples of constant and continuous redefining of where, when, and how they spend their time.
Love it. Harold, as we get close to wrapping up, I have two more points that I just want to get your thoughts on. One relates to something you and I have talked a lot about, building strong alliances and partnerships, the power of that, and how
Yes.
critical that is to success. Tell us about how you've gone about that, and what would you offer as that as a vehicle for folks to have success in this realm as they consider this rewirement process?
Well, one of my favorite statements of many that I learned 40 years ago is you build relationships before you work issues.
Hmm.
Back in the day, we called it a Rolodex. Well, right now it's called your contact list.
Right.
That is one of your primary tools should be utilized for any aspect of your life that you're trying to develop. If you are a member of a fraternity and you're going to Seattle tomorrow, you ought to be able to call somebody in your fraternity and say, I'm coming. Because over the years, by going to the regional meetings, national meetings, or whatever, if you're in the search business and you need somebody in Minnesota, you ought to be able to, at this point in your life, be able to call somebody, text somebody, tweet somebody, because that's the kind of network. And in the business you're in, you need that kind of network. But it takes work to do. You have to stay current on it. And it's if you're the younger person, I always say it's my opportunity, it's my obligation to stay in touch with my most senior people. And humbleness is a critical component of it also. Nobody knows it all. Nobody can do it by themselves, but you must avail yourself through the leveraging of your network to keep it current and help people along the way because you never know when you're going to need help.
So true. One of the other subjects you and I have talked about in the past, you've been outspoken about the significance and importance of educating the next generation, whether it's your daughter, grandchildren, but fostering intergenerational wealth. How has Harold T. Epps made that work for him, and what's been sort of your MO, and give us a sense for how that's working for you and your and the overall Epps game plan.
Well, first of all, I take uh, responsibility for ensuring that I'm doing my part to make the community that I'm a part of better. And I don't think anything is more important than skills and educational obtainment.
Okay.
I spent 8 years on the board of trustees at my undergraduate alma mater, North Carolina Central University, and I'm in my 6th year on the board of the Community College of Philadelphia, where I now serve as chair. That is my direct way to check the box that says, am I doing my part? Yes, I have a resume that says I am continuing to do my part. And I use it as, in fact, I have the pen on right now. It's community college's pen to reaffirm that if we want a strong community, it would be no stronger than the people in it. And for us, black and brown,
Mhm.
who typically come from a community of low wealth, the best chance you have for economic mobility is skills and education. Um, Now, when you're in those rooms, you get an opportunity to build a network because it is around you are now with like-minded people.
Mhm.
There was a time 5 years ago I could call back to North Carolina to half a dozen of the chancellors of the universities. And so if you had a person that wanted to go to XYZ University from out of state, I could pick up the phone and call down there and at least get you an interview. But that came from decades of building a network. And so networks ought to be used to help other people, and on occasion it will help you too. But that network, used properly, can help expand your reach. And as I heard somebody the other day describe it, it can be a force multiplier.
I love it. Force multiplier.
Multiplier, yeah. Which is, by the way, or another word for leverage. That's when you get your maximum return on your investment. when you lever your skill set, when you lever your experiences in a way that will get you a force multiplier.
Love it. Love
Which
it.
you and I have done together on a couple of occasions.
Yes, we have. Yes, we have. We may not be done because
No, we're not done.
either one of us are in our last act. God willing.
Well, I've decided I'm going to run the race in the lane I'm in until God says it's time. It's time. And by the way, and I'll know it when when it's time. And I get constant reminders that He says it's not time yet.
I love it. But you're looking and you're listening. Listen, Harold, we really appreciate the time that you have invested with us today at C-Suite Elevated on behalf of Broadview Talent Partners. I am extremely grateful. We've learned a lot about retirement, rewirement. We've learned a lot about continuous learning. We've learned a lot about networking, relationships, partnerships. Anything you'd like to leave us as a closing comments or closing remarks for us to cap this off?
Yeah, so I'm going to share with you some words that I use to guide me. 6 of them start with F's and 4 of them start with W's.
Okay, I love it.
All right, so the W's.
All right.
Walk, drink water, lift some weights, keep working. Now, I should tell you there's some other W's, but we'll have to say those for the golf course. I can't, this is,
To be continued on the course.
exactly. And the F's that have served me well is you build your life on faith, family, friends. If you're a member of fraternities as we are, include them, your fitness, and then take care of your finances.
Love it. I love it. Well, I'm going to end it there. No better way to have a mic drop. Thank you, Harold T. Epps, for the time you have devoted to us today. Very much appreciated.
Always good to see you.